What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, we got an episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly, episode 2 of Chicago Bulls Weekly to provide for you guys, where we look at the upcoming week for the Chicago Bulls and the stresses behind that week, as well as looking at the miserable previous week that we've had, and the key word there will always be miserable. You may as well put miserable attached to the Chicago Bulls name, the miserable Chicago Bulls, because everybody in relation to the Chicago Bulls, whether it's the coaching staff, the players, most definitely the fans, have probably felt miserable at the moment being attached to the Chicago Bulls in one way, shape, or form, which is extremely frustrating. But we're going to look at the previous week, look at the upcoming week, give some rewards along the way, and just complete the Chicago Bulls Weekly. Before we get any further, if you enjoy the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls previous and upcoming week, as well as the rewards that we will be talking about today. If you're very new to Chicago Bulls Weekly, I suggest watching till the end of the video so you can kind of give your own opinions on the rewards given and stuff of that nature. But let's look at the previous week. We've had 3 games in the previous week, and we will end up going 1-2. And you might look at that record and say, hey, it's not a terrible record. At the end of the day, 1 win, 2 losses. That's probably about the normal Chicago Bulls you would see. But I would go out on a limb here and say these 3 performances for the Chicago Bulls in consecutive 3 games have been the worst performances I've ever seen from a Chicago Bulls team. And I've seen a lot of Bulls teams. I've seen tanking Chicago Bulls teams. I've seen teams trying to compete. I've seen teams in the middle of the pack. And I think every single team that I've watched in my lifetime of the Chicago Bulls, I guess, teams, all the teams I've watched in the past, tanking, good, in the middle of the pack, would have performed better than this current Chicago Bulls team that I've watched. So that is extremely disappointing, and it kind of shows the level of the Chicago Bulls at the moment. We did lose to the OKC Thunder in our home opener, 124-104, the first home opener for the Chicago Bulls, or I guess the first game for the Bulls, and they lost big time in the home opener. I believe last season in the home opener we lost again as well. So that is very, very disappointing. OKC are a decent side. They definitely provided a lot of offensive troubles, in the sense that they made everything that they could make, but the Bulls massively under-delivered, massively disappointed, did not show heart. They had a player-only meeting at the end of that game, actually. And again, it shows the misery from the very beginning of the season. We had our response game against the Toronto Raptors, in which we won this game 104-103. Now, you might actually look at this game and say, our worst offensive performance was against the Toronto Raptors. In my opinion, 104 points, and it took us overtime to get there. It kind of shows how miserable that game was, and it kind of makes me reflect at how Toronto gave us that game. I think Toronto had an off game, but they were up for the majority of that third or fourth quarter. But if it wasn't for the fouls, if it wasn't for the massive turnover, which I don't know what Scottie Barnes was doing in that moment, but to cause that turnover that led to the DeMar DeRozan and one, and stuff of that nature, Toronto gave us that game. I'll be happy enough to take it, but we got to admit, Toronto were the favorites coming into that fourth quarter, and in a different situation, they would have won that game. We'll take it. I'm happy that we won the game. I'm happy that Caruso had the game that he had and everything in between. But let's be honest, the Bulls did not perform well in that game. I don't want a false agenda going out there saying the Bulls played well just because they won. They didn't. They played poorly and they won a game. It happens sometimes in the NBA, and that's why I'm more than happy to take it. Then obviously our last game against the Detroit Pistons, we lost this game 118-102, where Zach LaVine dropped 51 points and scored half of our points in that game. Now, I did the common courtesy thing. I said I would watch the game eventually. I ended up watching the game earlier today, and it's crazy how I didn't even need to watch the game for the game reaction to predict exactly where the Chicago Bulls went wrong. Lack of cutting, lack of off-ball movement, too much points in the paint and hustle points, 50-50 balls, not trying hard enough, the heart of the team is gone. I predicted all these things without watching the game. So that's a problem, because I, as a Bulls fan, should not be able to predict where the Bulls went wrong when I did not watch the game live. That is unacceptable in so many ways. So they need to find a way to bring that unpredictability back to this Bulls team, because I should never be able to predict how the Bulls lost in dramatic fashion. Again, if I didn't watch the game, I shouldn't be able to predict what went wrong. It's as simple as that. And that's the harsh reality of things. So it's very disappointing. Very, very disappointing. A miserable watch, a miserable game, and waste of time in my eyes. I shouldn't have watched it, but I did. I did the common courtesy thing. I wanted to give a proper analysis. It devastates me how we lost a lot because of 50-50 balls and the fact that we didn't fight harder than the Detroit Pistons. That hurts more than any sort of 0-point performance from anybody, or I guess the talent not being there. It's the effort that's not being there. It's a common saying, hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. Many people will say this Bulls team is more talented than Detroit. Obviously, clearly, we don't know that because we didn't really show it. But they worked harder and they won because they worked harder. It's as simple as that. And that is something we really need to take a deeper dive into. But let's look at the rewards real quick. We're going to make this one really, really quick. There's 4 awards that we usually give out. Must improve, where we look at the player that has to improve next week. The 6th man of the week, where we look at the best bench player. The defensive player of the week, where we look at the best defensive player. And then obviously the in general player of the week, where the best player will get recognition. I want to give an underrated player of the week as well. That will go to Ayo, because I feel like Ayo plays a small part in the Chicago Bulls these days, but he's actually played really well in these 3 games in limited minutes, and I don't want that to go under the radar. So he's my underrated player of the week if you wanted to add the 5th one. The must improve is easily Patrick Williams. 3 games, 3 massive disappointments. At the end of the day, there's a reason why there's a massive agenda pushing Patrick Williams to the bench, because he's not showing his potential. You can have potential all you like. Everybody still believes Patrick Williams has potential, but if you don't show it, there's no point in being here. And there's no point in starting if you're not going to be aggressive either. And there are some games where he's not shown aggressiveness. Maybe the confidence is lost. I think he needs to go to the bench to take some pressure off of him and to allow him to play a little bit more freely. It's clear that him in the starting lineup has not worked, and there are other guys on this bench that are performing better at his position. And again, I know it's 3 games in, but it's just simple as that. Change it now so we're not losing games in the future, because I can't stand another Patrick Williams disappointment in the next game against the Pacers. Unless he really just, turns up in that game, great, if he starts. But I think the bench role is calling his name right now, and the writing is on the wall for him. The defensive player of the week for me is Alex Caruso. Again, all of these great work against the Raptors. He's had a really good defensive game against the Pistons as well. You got to give recognition to that. And again, it just kind of speaks volumes for himself. He got 13 rebounds in a game, couple of block shots, great steals. Again, he's an all-NBA first-team defender for a reason, and he showed it in this week. Regardless of anything else, Alex Caruso was very good defensively. But Torrey Craig is my 6th man of the week because I think he was more consistent offensively and defensively. So that's kind of the difference between the two. You could give it to Alex Caruso if you like. That's fine. No arguments there. But I think Torrey Craig provided a lot more offensively this week than Alex Caruso may have had. The player of the week, this is so frustrating because I don't think he deserves it, I'll be honest. But he had a 51-point performance against Detroit. I'm going to give it to Zach LaVine. But consistency-wise, he was awful in the first 2 games, and he rose up and delivered in the 3rd game. Zach LaVine's my player of the week. He had a great milestone game, a career high. That should get recognition. But again, he wasn't really good this week. No one really was good this week at a consistent level. So it is what it is. We have 4 games to look forward to, and I'm going to tell you whether or not I'll be doing a watch along for them or not along the way. The first one is against the Indiana Pacers. That will be tomorrow. I will be doing a watch along for this game because, well, obviously just because I have the time to do so. Pacers have done really well this season. 2-0 and they haven't lost the game. They look really, really good. They look really, really fast. That's going to be a problem for the Bulls. Hopefully we can capitalize. It'll be away from home. That will be a difficult game. The Mavericks as well have done really good. I will be doing a watch along for this game. They are also 2-0 in their season. Any team with Luka is a team to be threatened by. We have played well against the Mavericks in the past, but this is not the same Bulls team. So let's hope we can play well against them again. The game after that against the Brooklyn Nets, I should be able to do a watch along for this one as well. Bulls and Brooklyn, again, I don't really know how to view this Brooklyn Nets team, so I don't really want to comment on them that much. They don't think they've won a game yet, so we'll wait and see. But they have delivered better performances in my eyes than the Bulls have. And then the last game is a back-to-back away from home against the Denver Nuggets. I will not be doing a watch-along for this game, which kind of sucks because that's the NBA champions. You always want to see, I guess, your team versus the best competition and versus the NBA champions. I'd love to do a watch along for that game. Unfortunately, I will not be available to do it. So it is what it is. I apologize for anybody that is going to get upset by that, but that's just life. You know, it is what it is. I won't be home. So simple as that. Thank you all for watching. Drop a like and a follow if you are new. I'll see you in the next Chicago Bulls related video. Have a wonderful and safe day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.